Good morning. It is Monday. Time to drive to work again. If I can figure out why the person sat at the bottom of my drive is blocking me in. I've mentioned the construction we've been having going on in the area, and they put a new road through, and now no one has a fucking clue what they're doing, and just basically end up pulling off the road and sitting at the bottom of my drive, which is starting to annoy me greatly. There we are. Okay, it's Monday, as I said. Time for the Monday game predictions. As always, my players switch off, don't watch until after the game on Monday. So we left off with our crew having met up with their new crew member, or rather with the new player character, who is a bounty hunter, who is there to help them, which, considering they're all the subjects of multiple bounties, is a bit odd. But they have set up a meeting with the Elven Armada, as I've previously mentioned, in order to try to clear the bounty that is on them. Now, they've been through the week making a lot of plans about how they want to put who on what ship and who they want to say what and all of this kind of thing. And I think I got yet another phone call on my way to work, because my office can't seem to wait until I'm there to ring me. Okay. So yeah, I think that they are under the impression that they're going to have a lot more time once they reach night before the elves find them. Whereas what's actually going to happen is there will be basically a blockade at the entry port tonight. There will actually be some elven ships both inside and outside to watch what's going on and to make sure that this goes smoothly. The elves are actually going to be a bit surprised by this group, because at this point their reputation has spread quite a bit. To talk about what happened, and this is something that, when my players do watch this, may or may not be news to them, depending on how the conversation goes. We know from the previous campaign recaps that the crew arrived on Red Eye. They set up a deal with the Gith. The deal went badly. The Gith killed the Gith with the Neogi's help, or at the Neogi's direction, before the handover could be made. And then Sanshara, Susha's uncle, showed up and blew up a ship full of Neogi and Gith, teleported a bunch of golems onto the station. There was some dealings, and then the crew left. That's what they know. Now, what they don't know is that the elves, Donsong, the ship, that they met on their way to Red Eye, got to Brawl, restocked, and came back to Red Eye. And when they arrived there, they found every living soul dead. All of the humans, everyone. And of course, they do have a number of diviners of different types. And one of them managed to basically scry a moment in the past. And it was a moment on the docks. And the imagery that came back showed the elves what happened on the docks. It showed the elves that the group of adventurers advanced onto the docks after the incident with the Gith. It then showed iron golems beginning to appear all over the docks. It then showed an arcane arriving. Now, remember in the original story, Sanshara and Susha arrived together. But in this case, an arcane, Susha, arrived. The arcane, Susha, then disintegrated the Neogi ship. The group then stood and talked for a while, and then departed. And once they had departed, the iron golems proceeded to make their way through the asteroid, killing everyone. Seemingly at Susha's order. So that's what the elves have seen. Obviously, it does not match up with what the crew remembers to be the case. So it will be interesting to see how the crew reconciles that point. I have a feeling that the encounter with the elves will take up the majority of the evening. And there's a couple of ways that it could go. There is a way they could talk their way out of it. It won't be easy. But it is possible. The fact that they're bringing Vorian, who was not a member of the crew, who was not present at any of these events, and who is a race that should not exist anymore, will complicate things. Because at least a couple of the elves there will know what he is, and do know that the Rhaegar are seen as bringers of chaos, which, considering the Elven Armada are law enforcers, is not going to sit well with them. They would see it as exactly the type of person that would fall in with the people who would do exactly what they think they've done. Yoki, our bounty hunter, is also not going to be very happy, because he has an impression that he's bringing these bounties to talk to the elves, and somehow or another he's going to stick around and look after them while the elves question them. And basically, when he gets there, the elves are going to hand him his money and say, "You can go now. That's your job done." Because, well, cops and bounty hunters don't necessarily have the best relationship. So that could be a bone of contention as well. They're also not going to allow Vorian to be present for the questioning, because he's got nothing to do with it. The odds are as well, depending on how the questioning goes, they will likely want to search the ship. Now, that's going to throw another bone of contention into things, because the elves have a group called the Seers. And one of the things that they can do is see magical enchantments on things. And when they go to walk onto the ship to check it, they are going to find that the entire ship is warded with dozens and dozens and dozens of symbols of insanity and pain and all these other things, which is going to make them look guilty. You know, if they're heroes who are out here trying to do good, why have they got their ship completely covered in traps that are going to harm people? It just kind of doesn't add up. And it looks like they were preparing to fight, which looks like an admission of guilt. Which is going to throw off whatever they might have said previous to it. So that's something that's going to cause problems as well. Then there is also the fact that once the elves do get past the wards and onto the ship, which they have a number of people who can cast spells, so they are likely to do. If they make their way into the cargo hold, they're going to find that the ship has a smuggler's hold. Basically, it has a 50-ton cargo hold, but then it also has a magical, hidden cargo hold of the same size. Which, I mean, yeah, some trade ships do use them just because of space. Granted, that makes sense. But then when they find that it's full of Fort Knox kind of level pallets of platinum bars, again, there are going to be more questions. Because among other things, with the massacre at Red Eyes, that's not been made very public, is the fact that all of the wealth of the Illithid that was there went missing as well. Obviously, the massacre of hundreds of people is the headline. So, yeah, that's going to be an interesting point as well. And then further, although the elves aren't necessarily there to enforce them, the elves are aware that a number of other organizations have also placed bounties on these people, which, again, lends itself towards guilt. Because if you were innocent of the one thing we suspect you of, and your record is otherwise spotless, maybe there's a chance we believe you. But if you're claiming to be innocent of what we suspect you of, and of the other 10 things that other organizations are looking for you in regards to as well, that gets a bit more dicey. So, yeah, that's kind of where we are. I think the elves are going to take up a lot of our time. There's also 3 or 4 separate kind of secret storylines going on right now, where certain members of the crew, and my players will watch this, so I can't talk about who, but where certain members of the crew are doing things that other members of the crew don't know about. And some of them will likely have quite a bit of influence on future games. Now, how that's going to play out, I don't yet know. But that might take up some of the time tonight as well. Just for those who aren't familiar with what I've said previously about the games that I'm running, we run them through Roll20, also making use of Skype. So there are times when there will be one game going on vocally. Excuse me, it's been a long weekend. One game going on vocally, while there might be 2 or 3 other conversations going on through text in Skype, as players are doing things in the background or getting information that other players don't have, things like that. So, yeah, the encounter with the elves, the side stories, and then we might actually get to night, where the ship is planning to pick up some cargo runs. I think I'm going to probably stop there because I don't want to give away anything more, because I'm not sure if I'll get there tonight, and if I don't want my players having any spoilers. So, yeah, that's the Monday game preview. I'll be back tomorrow to talk about what actually happened, and then Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday to ramble on about various and miscellaneous topics. As always, like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. It's appreciated. I know that we've just passed 250 views on the channel. I know in YouTube speak that's a drop in the bucket, but it's still kind of a cool number to hit. So thank you, and see you tomorrow.